cognitive skill that helps us to hold information in our minds and mentally manipulate it over short periods of time. It is often thought of as a mental workspace that we can use to store important information while engaging in other mental activities. We use our working memory to remember and understand what we have read, remember information to use at a later time, solve multi-step math problems or follow multi-step directions, sustain focus on important details while ignoring distractions, and in social situations while conversing or playing with our friends. Working memory is limited in a number of ways and can easily fail us when we need it. Here are some ways to spot a potential working memory deficit in the classroom. Reserved in group activities, poor academic progress in reading and math, place-keeping difficulties, difficulties in following instructions, appear to be inattentive, to have a short attention span, or to be distractible.
Well, you know you make me wanna stop.
A recent study found that prevalence rates for working memory deficits are at around 10%. Yet, a majority of teachers only pick up early warning signs 25% of the time.
Fortunately, there are screening tools like these two measures on the left here to assist in identifying working memory deficits in the classroom. One new development is that working memory problems can now be assessed indirectly using knowledge of the child's classroom behavior and take no more than 5 minutes to administer. This measure on the right is an example of a measure that does just that. A high score on this checklist indicates that a child is likely to have working memory problems that will affect their academic progress. COGMED training is comprised of computerized cognitive exercises that are designed by neuroscientists to train working memory. Each program runs 5 days a week for 5 weeks, with each session lasting about 40 minutes. Difficulty level of the exercises is adjusted according to the individual's performance. Users' performance is tracked online, and users receive feedback by their COGMED coach. The program is available from preschool to adulthood. Here are two examples of the COGMED interface. On the left, we have a visual spatial task. In this task, children are required to reproduce a visual sequence that appears on free-floating asteroids. The one on the right is input module. In this task, children are required to reproduce an auditory sequence of digits. Response to intervention is a method of academic intervention that seeks to prevent academic failure through early intervention, frequent progress measurement, and increasingly intensive research-based instructional interventions for children who continue to have difficulty. We see it like this. A child is screened using one of the aforementioned checklists. If they show signs of working memory deficits, the teacher may decide to implement some instructional support, such as repetition or chunking work into smaller tasks. If the child continues to show difficulty, COGMED can be suggested.
Here are some studies that support the efficacy of COGMED training.
In a study by Dallin, the efficacy of COGMED working memory training in improving reading comprehension development in a group of children with special needs and attention problems was revealed. Children with attention problems were placed into two groups: the treatment group, who received COGMED working memory training, or the control group, who received ordinary special education. The results of this study revealed that those in the treatment group enhanced the results of working memory measures and reading comprehension in Time 2 compared to Time 1. In another study, a group of 12 to 17-year-old youths with severe learning disabilities and co-occurring ADHD were randomized to one of two computerized intervention programs, the Working Memory Training with COGMED or the Academy of Math, and were evaluated before and 3 weeks after the completion of these programs. The results of this study revealed that those who were placed in the COGMED Working Memory Training enhanced their auditory verbal working memory and short-term visual spatial storage.
Before we implement COGMED in the classroom, let's take a look at the flip side. Researchers Shipstead, Hicks, and Engel conducted a meta-analysis of all the research studies on COGMED. It's important to note that the initial promise was followed by a series of failed replications. It's very possible that increased attentional stamina was simply due to a training effect, and improved ADHD behaviors, as reported by subjective ratings from parents and teachers, could have been due to an expectancy effect. In the majority of studies, tasks used to measure working memory are limited to simple and complex span tasks. Performance on these tasks should not be confused with working memory itself. Near transfer effects need to be observed in more tasks and make working memory apparent. And finally, COGMED ranges in price from $1,500 to $2,000, and it's not covered by most medical insurance. A recurring theme in the research is that currently the full potential of COGMED training is unknown, and this is due to relying on a broad theory of plasticity, as opposed to a more specific theory on working memory capacity. Gibson and colleagues propose a dual-component theory that targets both attention and memory mechanisms. Up until now, COGMED training has just targeted one. Researchers agree that further research on working memory will inform future interventions.